The human colony station Kestrel 9 drifted quietly at the edge of known space. It was not famous or powerful. Most maps marked it only as a minor trade stop between larger systems. Ships arrived carrying cargo, travelers, and stories, then disappeared again into the endless dark. The station was old, slightly crooked, and always making strange noises, but humans and many other species called it home. Elias was one of those people who kept the station alive without anyone noticing. He worked as a maintenance technician, the kind of job that rarely earned praise but was always needed. Doors jammed, lights flickered, water filters clogged, and machines broke in creative ways every day. Elias moved quietly through the corridors with a toolkit hanging at his side, solving problems one by one. Well, that was what he believed. At least that was what he believed. After work, he often sat near the wide viewing window of a small cafe. From there, he watched ships glide through space, like silent fish. He liked the feeling of distance from everything important. No politics, no power struggles, no expectations. One evening, while scrolling through the public interstellar network, he saw a strange announcement. The Imperial Court had opened a public message channel. The Queen herself had allowed messages from civilians. It sounded ridiculous. Most people assumed the channel was symbolic, a diplomatic gesture that would be filtered by countless assistants before reaching anyone important. Some joked about sending nonsense messages. Others ignored it completely. Elias stared at the interface longer than he expected. He was tired from work. A long shift repairing a broken recycling system had left grease on his hands and exhaustion in his bones. Maybe that was why he felt unusually bold. He opened the message window. At first he tried writing something serious. The words felt stiff and fake. He deleted them. He tried again. This time he wrote honestly.
He described life on Kestrel
9. He talked about strange alien neighbors, malfunctioning machines, and how humans sometimes survive not because they were stronger, but because they refused to give up. He joked about how the station felt alive, as if it wanted to test everyone's patience. He wrote about laughter, about how humans used humor to survive fear and uncertainty. Then he added a line that made him laugh at himself. "Your Majesty, if ruling the galaxy becomes too heavy, you are welcome to visit our station. I will teach you how to fix a door with nothing but stubbornness and a wrench." This was a terrible idea, but he pressed send anyway. The message vanished into the network. Elias shook his head and finished his drink, already embarrassed by his own impulsiveness. Days passed. Nothing happened. He forgot about the letter completely. Life continued with its usual rhythm. A cargo drone crashed into a wall. Someone complained about temperature changes in a residential ring. Elias worked long hours solving problems no one else wanted to handle. 3 days later, everything changed. Arrival alarms sounded across the station. Not emergency alarms, but official arrival signals used for important visitors. Elias noticed people gathering near windows, whispering excitedly. Outside, ships appeared one by one. They were beautiful. Long silver vessels with smooth curves and glowing lines across their hulls. Imperial symbols shimmered like living light. The fleet moved with perfect coordination, surrounding the station in a protective formation.
No one had ever seen something like this at Kestrel 9.
Rumors spread quickly. The Queen's fleet. That's impossible.
Why would she come here? Security teams rushed through corridors.
Civilian traffic was redirected. Shops closed early as curiosity replaced routine. Elias tried to ignore it. He had work to do. But later, while sitting in the cafe again, he noticed Imperial guards walking calmly through the station. Their presence changed the atmosphere instantly. Conversations became quieter. People stepped aside without being asked. One guard stopped in front of Elias. "Human Elias," the guard said politely. Elias blinked in confusion. "Yes? Please come with us." His heart started beating faster. He followed the guards, trying to think of any mistake he might have made. Had he broken a regulation? Accidentally accessed something restricted? They guided him through unfamiliar corridors until they reached a private docking chamber. The doors opened. Bright white light filled the space. And she stood there, the Queen. She looked different from the images seen on public broadcasts. Those images showed power and distance, but standing here, she felt real, tall, graceful, and calm. Her eyes carried a quiet intelligence that made Elias feel both nervous and strangely understood. She studied him carefully. "You are the one who sent the letter," she said. Elias felt heat rush to his face.
Yes. I didn't think anyone would actually read it.
Boss. I read it 3 times. The words surprised him more than anything else. "You came because of that?" It made me laugh. She said, "That is rare." She stepped closer, dismissing the guards with a small gesture. They moved away, giving them privacy.
"I receive many messages," she continued.
"Most ask for power, favor, or wealth. Yours asked for nothing. It simply shared truth."
Elias struggled to find words.
"I was just tired," he admitted. "I wrote whatever came to mind. That honesty is why I came," she said quietly. Outside the window behind her, the Imperial fleet glowed against the darkness of space. Elias suddenly felt very small. "You didn't need to travel across the galaxy just for a joke," he said. Her expression changed slightly.
"It was not a joke to me," she said. "It reminded me that leadership can become heavy when one forgets ordinary life."
Elias realized she looked tired, not physically, but emotionally, like someone carrying invisible weight. "What happens now?" he asked carefully. She tilted her head. "You invited me to visit. Will you guide me?" The question felt unreal.
I'm just a maintenance worker."
"Then you are perfect," she replied. And in that moment, Elias understood that the most powerful being in the galaxy had come to Kestrel 9, not for politics or war, but for something simple and human: connection. As they walked together through the station, people stared in disbelief. The Queen listened as Elias explained how systems worked, how humans improvised solutions, and how the station survived despite constant problems. She laughed quietly when a door malfunctioned and refused to open until Elias kicked it gently.
"You are not exaggerating," she said. "No," he replied.
"Machines here respond better to personality than programming." The Queen smiled again, and for the first time in many years she felt curiosity instead of duty guiding her steps. Neither of them knew that this meeting would change the future of both humanity and the Empire. The news spread across Kestrel, 9 faster than any signal. The Queen of the Imperial Alliance was walking through the station like an ordinary visitor, guided by a human maintenance worker. Many people did not believe it at first. Others rushed toward observation corridors hoping to catch a glimpse. Security teams tried to maintain order, but curiosity was stronger than rules. Elias walked beside her, still feeling as if he had stepped into someone else's life. Every few seconds he expected someone to stop them and say there had been a mistake. But the Queen continued forward calmly, her attention focused on everything around her. "This place feels alive," she said quietly as they entered a busy marketplace corridor. "That's one way to describe it," Elias replied. "Some people say it's barely held together." She watched traders calling out prices, children running between stalls, and alien species interacting without fear. Music played from a small speaker, slightly distorted but cheerful. "In the Imperial Court," she said slowly, "everything is controlled. Perfect. silent.
That sounds...
Peaceful, Elias said.
It is.
She replied, then paused. But it is also lonely. They stopped near a food stall where a small alien cook waved happily at Elias. You finally brought a friend, the cook said, not recognizing the queen.
Elias froze, unsure how to respond. The queen simply smiled.
I would like to try whatever he recommends, she said. Moments later, they sat at a small table eating simple street food.
Imperial guards watched from a distance, clearly uncomfortable but respectful of her wishes.
She tasted the food and laughed softly.
It is extremely spicy. That means it's working, Elias said. Her laughter surprised everyone nearby. People who had expected royal distance instead saw a genuine amusement. As they continued walking, she asked many questions. Not about politics or military power, but about ordinary life, how humans adapted to difficult situations, how they formed friendships across species, why they often joked, even during stressful moments.
Elias answered honestly, "We don't always win," he said.
But we try to make things better, even if it's small. She listened carefully, as if every word mattered. Eventually, they reached a quiet observation deck overlooking space. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass. The queen stood silently for a long time. When I first became ruler, she said, I believed strength meant distance. I thought leaders must stand above others. And now? Elias asked gently.
Now I wonder if I misunderstood,
she said. Her expression carried vulnerability that few people had ever seen. Elias leaned against the railing, unsure how to respond. He was not used to giving advice to someone so powerful. You came here because of a letter, he said slowly. Maybe you already know what you need. She looked at him with curiosity.
You speak without fear,
she observed.
I'm too confused to be afraid, he admitted, making her laugh again.
At that moment, an alert signal appeared on her wrist device. Her smile faded slightly as she read it. What is it? Elias asked. Political matters, she said quietly.
Some members of the Imperial Council are unhappy that I left without formal announcement.
That sounds serious.
It is, she replied. They believe a ruler must not show weakness, and visiting a small station is weakness? To them, yes.
That seems unfair. She nodded. Power often creates rigid expectations. Silence returned between them. After a moment, she turned toward him. Tell me honestly, she said. Do humans judge leaders harshly? Elias thought for a moment. Yes, he said, but humans also forgive when leaders show they are real people. She absorbed his words carefully. Hours passed as they explored different sections of the station. She watched engineers working, spoke briefly with children, and observed how different species cooperated naturally. Everywhere she went, her presence changed the atmosphere. People stood taller, spoke more proudly, and seemed eager to show the best parts of their community. By evening, they returned to a quieter corridor.
You have shown me more truth in one day than many advisors in years, she said softly. I just showed you normal life, Elias replied. That is exactly what I needed. As they spoke, a sudden loud noise echoed through the station. Lights flickered briefly. Elias immediately recognized the sound. That's not good, he said. What happened? Probably a power relay failure. The Queen followed. When they arrived, engineers were already working, but the situation looked chaotic. A large conduit had overheated, threatening to shut down an entire habitat ring. Elias quickly joined the team, giving instructions and adjusting systems with confident movements. He forgot completely that the Queen was watching.
She observed silently as he coordinated different species, calming tension with humor and clear thinking. Within minutes, the situation stabilized.
When the lights returned fully, cheers filled the room.
Elias wiped sweat from his forehead and turned toward her. "Sorry about that," he said.
"Do not apologize," she replied. "You solved a crisis with calm and cooperation." "That's just maintenance work." "No. It is leadership." The word surprised him. Later, as they walked back toward the docking area, she seemed thoughtful.
"I believe my council fears humanity," she said suddenly. "Why? Because humans do not follow expected patterns," she explained.
"You find strength in unpredictability." Elias smiled faintly. "That sounds about right." She stopped walking. "There may come a time when I need help understanding your species more deeply," she said. "I'm not exactly an expert," he replied. "But you are honest," she said. "And honesty is rare." They stood facing each other in the quiet corridor. Outside, Imperial ships still surrounded the station like silent guardians. Inside, something subtle changed between them. Respect, trust, and the beginning of a connection neither of them fully understood yet. Far away, within the Imperial fleet, certain advisors watched carefully, already questioning the growing influence of one ordinary human. And none of them realized that this simple meeting would soon create a conflict capable of reshaping the balance of power across the galaxy. The Imperial fleet remained around Kestrel, 9 longer than anyone expected. At first, the station treated it like a festival. Traders gathered near windows, children pointed at the shining ships, and local vendors created special meals named after the Queen. But slowly, the excitement turned into curiosity mixed with tension. Important figures did not stay in small places without reason. Elias noticed the change before others spoke about it openly. Imperial guards became more alert. Officers moved quickly through secured corridors. Communication signals increased, and encrypted transmissions filled the station network. Something was happening beyond his understanding. The Queen, however, continued to move through the station with calm purpose. She asked questions, listened to stories, and watched how humans solved problems together. Each interaction seemed to give her energy she had not felt in years. One evening they stood again on the observation deck, watching distant stars.
"You have changed the atmosphere here," Elias said quietly. She tilted her head slightly. "How so?" "People feel proud," he said. "They think the galaxy finally noticed them." Her expression softened.
"They were always worth noticing," she replied. Before he could answer, a group of Imperial advisors entered the deck.
Their clothing was formal, their faces serious. Elias stepped back, sensing he should give space. "Your Majesty," one advisor said respectfully, "we must speak immediately." "We must speak immediately at Elias." As if silently asking him to stay, the advisors activated a privacy field. Their voices became quieter, but still audible. "The Council demands your return," one said. "Several sectors question your absence." "I informed them I required time," she replied calmly. "Time is interpreted as weakness," another advisor added. Already certain factions spread rumors. Elias noticed her posture grow slightly more rigid. "Let them," she said. "That is not wise," the advisor insisted.
"Your connection to this human has become a topic of concern." Elias felt uncomfortable hearing himself mentioned like a political issue. She looked directly at the advisor.
"He is not a political symbol. He is a person."
The advisor hesitated. "Nevertheless, some believe humans influence you too strongly." A quiet tension filled the space. The Queen dismissed them gently, ending the conversation. When the privacy field faded, she turned back toward Elias. "I apologize," she said. "For what?" "For bringing imperial politics into your life." He shrugged slightly. "Life here is never boring anyway." She laughed softly, but worry remained in her eyes. Later that night, Elias returned to his work section, trying to focus on repairs, but his thoughts kept returning to the conversation. He realized he had stepped into something much larger than himself. He was not just guiding a visitor anymore. He was part of a story that powerful people were watching closely. The next morning began normally until a sudden alarm echoed through the station.
Emergency alert. Not a system failure.
Security breach. Elias ran into the corridor where people gathered in confusion. Imperial guards moved quickly, blocking certain paths. "What happened?" he asked one of the engineers.
No idea, the engineer said. But something triggered defense protocols.
Unauthorized vessel detected. The ship had entered the system without identification. The Imperial fleet reacted instantly. Ships shifted formation, energy shields glowing faintly. Elias felt tension rising.
He received a direct message. "Come to the docking bay," the Queen said.
He arrived to find her already there, surrounded by officers.
"A diplomatic vessel from a rival faction," one officer explained. "They claim peaceful intentions, but ignored proper protocol."
That sounds suspicious, Elias said. She nodded slightly.
"They wish to meet me privately," she said. "That sounds even more suspicious." Her lips curved into a faint smile at his honesty.
I agree. The rival vessel docked slowly. Its design looked sharp and angular, very different from the elegant Imperial ships.
3 figures emerged. Their leader stepped forward confidently. "Your Majesty," he said with a polite bow that felt more like a challenge than respect. She returned a calm nod.
"What brings you here without invitation?" "We came to remind you of your responsibilities," he said smoothly. "The Empire cannot be guided by
emotional distractions." His eyes briefly moved toward Elias.
Elias resisted the urge to react.
"I choose my own priorities," she replied firmly. The leader smiled thinly. "Some believe you have become too influenced by humanity." Elias stepped forward slightly. "She's just visiting a station," he said calmly. "Nothing wrong with that." The leader studied him with cold curiosity.
"So, this is the human?" Imperial guards shifted closer, ready to intervene if needed. The Queen raised her hand slightly, keeping control of the situation.
"You came here to provoke," she said. "You have seen me. Now you may leave." The leader bowed again. "We will leave," he said. "But remember, leaders who forget their place often lose it." Tension remained heavy in the air. Elias turned toward her. That didn't feel friendly. "No," she admitted, "but it revealed something important." "What?" "That some fear change more than conflict." They walked slowly back toward the station corridors.
"Do you regret coming here?" Elias asked carefully. She stopped walking.
"No," she said firmly, "for the first time in years. I remember why I lead." Her words carried quiet strength. As days passed, their conversations grew deeper. She shared stories about ruling, about difficult decisions, and about loneliness hidden behind power. Elias shared stories about ordinary struggles, friendships, and human resilience. They began to understand each other beyond titles. But across the galaxy, rumors spread rapidly. Political factions debated her choices. Some supported her new approach. Others prepared opposition. And somewhere within the Imperial fleet, certain advisors began to consider drastic measures to separate the Queen from the human influence they believed dangerous. Neither Elias nor the Queen knew that the true challenge had not yet begun. The galaxy was watching, and soon they would be forced to choose between tradition and change the atmosphere around Kestrel. 9 changed again, but this time the excitement felt heavier. The arrival of the rival delegation had stirred political tension across the Imperial fleet, and everyone could sense it even if they did not understand the details. Elias noticed more guards stationed at important junctions. Imperial officers spoke in low voices, and encrypted transmissions filled the network channels almost constantly. The station itself continued to function, but a quiet pressure settled over everything. The Queen remained calm. If anything, she appeared more focused than before. Elias met her early one morning near the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly behind her, and the soft light of distant nebulae reflected in her eyes.
"You didn't sleep," he said gently. "Leaders rarely do during moments like this," she replied.
That sounds unhealthy, she smiled faintly. Humans seem very concerned with sleep. That's because we break if we don't rest, he said.
She looked thoughtful at his words, as if considering a truth she had never allowed herself to accept. A moment later, an Imperial officer approached quickly.
"Your Majesty," he said, bowing. "Emergency Council session is requesting immediate connection."
"Prepare a secure link." Elias stepped back as a holographic display activated. Several figures appeared, members of the Imperial Council.
Their expressions ranged from respectful to openly critical.
"Your Majesty," one began, "your extended stay at a minor station has caused instability."
Certain factions interpret this as abandonment of duty.
I have not abandoned anything, she replied calmly.
You have prioritized personal curiosity over imperial responsibility, another said sharply. Elias felt anger rising but remained silent.
The Queen's voice remained steady.
I came here to understand something important. And what could be so important? The advisor demanded.
Perspective, she said. Some advisors looked confused. Others clearly disapproved. Your Majesty, one said carefully, reports indicate you have formed an unusually close connection with a human civilian. She did not deny it. Yes, she said simply. Murmurs spread through the council. Politically dangerous. Change often feels dangerous, she replied. The debate continued, growing more intense. Some advisors argued that humanity's influence could destabilize the empire. Others supported her decision to explore new ways of leadership. Elias watched silently, realizing he had become part of a conflict far beyond anything he had imagined. Finally, the connection ended. The Queen exhaled slowly.
They fear losing control, she said quietly. What will you do? Elias asked.
She looked at him directly.
I will show them that strength and compassion are not opposites.
Before he could respond, another alarm echoed through the station. This time it sounded different. Real danger. Imperial ships moved into defensive formation. Warning messages appeared across public displays. Unknown fleet approaching. Not the rival diplomats. Something larger. Elias felt his stomach tighten. Pirates? He asked. More organized than pirates, she said, reading incoming data.
A coalition of factions that oppose imperial unity. The threat became clear quickly. Several warships emerged from hyperspace, positioning themselves aggressively near Kestrel.
9. Civilian panic spread through the station. Imperial officers moved quickly to prepare defenses.
We must evacuate civilians to secure zones, Elias said immediately.
She nodded. Together, they moved through corridors, guiding people calmly. Elias used humor to reduce fear, joking lightly with frightened children and helping elders reach safe areas. The Queen watched how naturally humans protected each other without hesitation. Outside, energy beams flashed as Imperial ships formed a barrier between the attackers and the station.
A message arrived from the hostile fleet.
Surrender the Queen. This station will not be harmed.
Elias looked at her. They want you. Yes, she said calmly.
Imperial officers prepared for battle.
but she hesitated.
If fighting escalates here, civilians will suffer, she said.
Elias stepped closer. What are you thinking?
I may need to face them directly. That sounds dangerous,
he said. It is my responsibility. He shook his head slightly. Humans don't leave their friends alone in danger. She looked at him, understanding the meaning behind his words.
You would come with me? If it helps protect people, yes.
Moments later, they stood aboard a small Imperial shuttle heading toward the hostile flagship. The silence inside felt heavy, but focused. You are brave, she said quietly. I'm terrified, he admitted. Humans just move anyway. Her expression softened. That is a form of courage. The shuttle docked with the enemy vessel. Inside, tension filled the air. Armed guards watched closely as they entered a large chamber where the enemy commander waited.
You came personally, he said with surprise. I came to end this without unnecessary destruction, she replied.
He laughed coldly. You have become weak! Before she could answer, Elias stepped forward. No, he said calmly.
She's strong enough to try peace first. The commander looked amused.
And who are you? Just a maintenance worker, Elias said. Some guards laughed, but the Queen's gaze remained steady.
Humans understand something many forget, she said. Strength is not only force, it is choice.
The conversation shifted unexpectedly.
Elias spoke about ordinary people on Kestrel. 9. About families and cooperation between species. His words were simple but honest, cutting through political language. Even the enemy commander listened.
You risked your fleet for civilians?
He asked. Yes, she said. Silence followed. Finally, the commander sighed. Perhaps I misjudged you, he admitted. We expected arrogance, not humility. After long negotiation, the hostile fleet withdrew without battle when the shuttle returned to Kestrel. 9 cheers filled communication channels. The crisis ended without destruction. Later, standing again at the observation deck, Elias and the Queen watched the Imperial fleet preparing to depart. You changed everything, she said quietly. I just talked, he replied. You showed me that leadership can be human, she said. He smiled faintly. And you showed me that even queens need someone to remind them to laugh. She stepped closer. I must return to the Empire, she said softly, but I will not forget this place. Or you. Elias felt unexpected emotion, but kept his voice steady. I'm just glad you came. Her ships began to move slowly away from the station. Before leaving, she turned toward him one last time.
A silly letter changed the future, she said. Maybe honesty isn't silly, he replied.
She smiled, a real warm smile, and stepped onto her shuttle. As the Imperial fleet disappeared into the stars, Elias returned to his ordinary life. Doors still broke, lights still flickered. The station remained imperfect, but now everyone knew that even a simple human voice could reach across the galaxy. And somewhere far away, a queen ruled differently because one human dared to be honest.